Good morning. Good morning. I'm Suzanne. Welcome to our Tuesday live. This is my first one of the new year, so Happy New Year. We just had a beautiful shot of our early season roses, which we are selling now. If you're familiar with our website, you probably noticed that we've been doing pre-sales on them for a couple of months, and now they've just started coming in. We're waiting for a few more varieties like the patio trees and climbers and things like that. But if you have ordered some roses, not everything has come in yet. They're slowly coming in from our growers, and so just wait and see. You'll be seeing lots and lots of roses here at Rogers Gardens. We're super excited because they're starting to leaf out, and it's really rose season. So January is the time when you start to think about gardening in earnest, but mainly with your roses, you're going to think about pruning them. And our talk today is about taking care of roses in an organic way. So roses can be super easy to take care of. They do require a little bit of attention, a little bit of discipline. So you're going to be pruning them in January, and that's something I'm just going to talk about very lightly because we actually have some great videos on our website, especially right now. Our rosarian Laura did a great series of pruning and things like that. So just to show you really quickly, when you're buying a new season rose, this is a great one. I kind of looked through all of them. I kind of want to give a caveat. Don't worry, all of our roses don't look exactly like this. I just tried to choose the ones that you might want to lean more towards. So this one here has almost like a little bowl effect. You can see there are 4 beautiful healthy stems, and they're all kind of growing out. When you're growing roses, you definitely want to not think that more stems is better, because the more stems you have, the more you're going to be pruning in between them. You want to keep that airflow going. You want the rose to really be able to breathe. And so when you're planting them, you want to give them space as well. If you're doing a rose hedge, maybe with some iceberg roses, that might be an exception. But for your other roses, when you're having a beautiful rose garden filled with different roses, different varieties, hybrid teas and floribundas and grandifloras, and even low growing, you want to give them some space, and that's mainly so that diseases and pests can't leap to them very easily. So if one rose gets rust or something, all of them won't get rust if they're too close together. So just keep that in mind. Other good practices with roses are to, when you water it, just keep the water down here, not on the plant. Do not get water on the leaves of the roses, because that can lead to a little bit more powdery mildew. And there are some ways that sometimes it can combat powdery mildew, but for the most part, especially if you're here at the coast, do not water onto the leaves of the plant. That's super easy, and it's a very organic method to keep the powdery mildew at bay. If you do have powdery mildew, I'm going to be talking about some other products that will help it. But again, going back to just January, looking at roses, trying to find this nice little bowl shape. I have a couple others. This one is Iconic Mango Lemonade, in case you're curious which variety that is. I have a beautiful Yves Piaget. See, this one has three stems, beautiful. Again, more does not necessarily mean better. Keeping it simple, you can see where the plant is growing. And when you're pruning a rose in January, you're going to prune it back to about this height. Unless you're going for a much higher hedge, you can definitely, train it up higher. But for the most part, 15 to 18 inches is a good way to prune it. You're going to make sure that nothing is crossing and keeping it super, super simple like this. So if you're pruning them, or if your gardener's pruning them, or a friend is pruning them, don't be too shocked if it goes like this, because I guarantee you within a month or so, you're going to have beautiful leaves and blooms. And I have one more rose back here. This is Queen Mary. So again, you can see 4 beautiful canes here, and it's just starting to sprout here. Because we're in Southern California, it's really hard to stop roses from growing, but we do have to prune them back, all of them. Climbing roses, ground cover roses, patio tree roses, shrub roses. They all need a good hard pruning. Maybe at the end of this, you can see we just pruned back these giant climbing roses back here down to just the bare canes. One of our horticulturists, Jordan, here did that and did a great job. So you can check and see that if you want to see how to prune climbing roses here. Okay, so to organic gardening with your roses. You always want to use organic fertilizers. So we have this beautiful rose and flower mix. This one is super, super easy. You just sprinkle it on the soil around where the root base is and just let it slowly work in. But you need to do it every month. And it's really important. The stronger a rose is, the better it can fight off pests and diseases. It's just like us. The stronger we are, we're going to be able to bat those colds and flus away a little bit easier. So some people like to add alfalfa meal. I'm not really a huge proponent of it, but we do have it here. So if you're into that, that's great. And then compost tea. I'm going to talk a lot about worm castings. I'm going to just keep mentioning them because I love them and they are such a great thing to add to your soil to help improve the soil, but also to help the plant become less desirable to aphids and whiteflies, scale, things like that. It makes the plant just not taste good. So always use your worm castings, and in this compost tea here, which you can use once a month, you're just going to soak one of these little tea bags in a bucket of water, leave it there overnight, and then in the morning you can kind of divide it among your roses, and it is just filled with goodness. I would use it twice. That's what I like to do. So just the compost tea is so great for adding a lot of nutrients to your soil. And you can also use this, if you strain it, you can use it as a foliar tea. So something you spray on the leaves to help strengthen it, give it fertilizer directly, kind of like, putting lotion on your skin. You're going to spray it on the leaves, and then it will make the plant even stronger, greener, more beautiful. We also have Seagrow, which is a sea kelp based fertilizer. It's really, really good. You're going to mix this one with water, and the fun thing about this, you can dilute it and feed it once a week if you want to push your roses. Maybe you're going to have like an event, or you're going to do a competition or something. You can use this just to help bump your roses up a little bit. And then always in January, after you prune your roses, after you fertilize them, I'm getting ahead of myself. So you're going to prune them, you're going to fertilize them, and you're going to put some Epsom salts in there. Epsom salts every 3 months is a great practice for roses. It helps give them some magnesium, but it also helps with greening them up and sending out a flush of new growth. It's you're going to use about a half to 3/4 of a cup, again, around the base of the plant. You can just water it in, it will dissolve, or you can dissolve it in water and then water it. It's either or, doesn't matter. So I went a little bit out of sync, but here's the thing. After you prune your rose, you want to spray it with your liquid copper spray. This is the best way to help prevent rust from forming. So you're going to prune it back like this, you're going to rake up all the leaves, all the blooms, everything, and then you're going to spray the plant itself and the soil around it with this liquid copper spray. It will help kill that rust, the spores that might be sitting there in the soil. It's also going to help a little bit with black spot spores that might be still there. So really, really important to not just prune, but also use this liquid copper spray. It can't be stressed enough. When you're going through the season, should you find rust on your roses, we get a lot of people in here and they ask, what can I do? And they'll bring in a leaf with rust. It's hard to tell them this, but you have to defoliate the whole plant. And that's part of rose care. Roses will grow and they'll grow almost with nothing, but if you want really, really good roses, you have to tend to them. So when they get rust, you're gonna take every single leaf, every single bud off that plant. You don't really need to cut it back, but you're gonna have to spray it with the copper spray. And again, rake the ground and spray the spray on the ground. This stuff is really, really good. I can't tell you enough. So at the end of this, I'm gonna tell you what your little arsenal of rose products will be. And it's a little bit more than most plants, but you kind of need specific things for each issue that a rose might have. So as the season goes on, usually the first thing that you're going to see is aphids. Aphids love that tender new growth, so if you've been using worm castings and they're in that soil and they've worked their way through the plant, that's going to help a lot. But also, one of the things you can use is this 3-in-1 spray. So this is a good thing with roses, to have a 3-in-1. It's going to be a pesticide, a fungicide, and a miticide. So it can help with a lot, not everything, but a lot. So you want to have this 3-in-1 for your aphids. You can blow them off with a hose first and then spray it, but just when you see aphids, take action. It's better to do it early than to wait until you have this full infestation, because it can really affect the growth of the plant. So that's problem number 2. You can have some sort of fungal issues, so rust or black spot. You're going to have aphids almost always, and rust usually comes a little bit later. At some point, if you get it, it's a wind-borne thing. It's also soil, and it can easily spread from plant to plant because the spores will just release and go on to the next plant. So you want to make sure that you're ready for that. Then in the summer come the sawfly larvae or rose slugs. This is pretty common, and it's, you can almost tell what time of the year it is by what problem your rose has. Usually sawfly larvae or rose slugs will come probably around July. Into July, you're going to start seeing the leaves look like Swiss cheese. They start eating them. If you turn the leaves over, you'll see a little inchworm kind of thing devouring your plants. And really the only super effective thing on these will be a product with spinosad. So we have Captain Jack's here, and we have the insect spray ready to use. And also keep in mind, most of these products that we have, if you have a lot of roses, we have hose end sprayers, we have concentrates, anything that you need. These are just a little bit easier to grab right now. But both of these products have spinosad in them, and it's the only thing that's going to be effective for the rose slug. And spinosad is an organic product. It's a bacteria from, I think it's from the Caribbean or something. So it's just a soil-borne pathogen that's going to work against your oh, sorry, I'm getting that mixed up with BT. Never mind. Forget that. BT. Yeah, exactly. Forget that. No, sorry, I'm totally mixing that up. But spinosad is a natural product, and it is so great. The only thing that's going to get rid of your rose slugs. So don't use BT, which sometimes people will use. Don't try an aphid spray. You definitely need spinosad. Okay, now if you have the dreaded black spot, one of the things you can use, I always tell people roses are hard to kill. You can have really cruddy looking roses, but to actually kill them takes a lot of neglect, a lot of disease and things like that. But black spot will really affect your roses, so you want to check the leaves. If you see the little kind of like leopardy black spots, take action immediately. You want to spray them with an oil-based spray. I love this horticultural oil. This is a great one. It's a little bit stronger than neem. And so neem, if you have a small kind of issue with some things, is great. Neem is super, super organic and super natural, but the horticultural oil, a little bit stronger. It's got products in it that are going to help it stick to the leaf, but it's also good at kind of like, what's the word I'm thinking of? It covers the black spot, so before it kind of evolves into a sporing fungus. So really, really important. And then we also have, and it's not here because we were out of it on the shelf, we have a disease control spray, which is also a really good one to use for roses because it can help with fungicides and bactericide. Okay, so those are my products. The 3 that I think you should really have are the 3-in-1. You should have something with spinosad, and you should have some sort of oil to help with any of the products, any of the problems that you're going to have. Okay, so we also have tools. In January, that's when you're going to want your tools definitely the most, but you always need a good set of pruners and loppers. So also these gloves. You cannot have roses without good gloves, and you need gauntlet gloves, longer ones, so that you don't get scratched up. These are really, really good. All of us here at Rogers use them, and they're perfect. So these are Comfort Pro. They come in different sizes, but a great thing for roses are pruners, and not all pruners are the same. So we have our Felcos, which are the super nice gardener's pruners, but we also have these great Corona pruners, and these come in different widths of how big of a stem you can cut. So we've got a 1/2 inch, a 3/4 inch, and a 1 inch. So for roses, you know, use what you need. You can always get a pair of loppers for the big stems, like if you have climbers and things like that and you really need to get in there and cut something big, use these loppers and get something that's really comfortable for you to use. You don't necessarily need a 1 inch pruner for roses because it's just going to be a lot in your hand. You'd need this for shrubs and trees and things like that. So stick to the 1/2 inch or the 3/4 inch, and the Felcos also come in these different sizes. So, you know, try them out, see which one feels best in your hand and which one you feel most comfortable using, because you want to use them all the time. Okay, and I'm trying, oh yes, worm castings, my favorite friends. So I accidentally kind of ripped this bag here. But worm castings are great. They're just something that has gone through the body of the worm and come out. This is what you'll have if you're doing vermiculture, which is raising worms with your compost to help get that worm tea, which, you know, if you have worm tea, you don't have to buy these. So it's kind of fun. A lot of cities have vermiculture courses to so that you can learn about raising worms, and then you can also buy the worm kits there, or they'll teach you how to make a worm kit. There's a new law in place that a lot of people may not be familiar with, but now the state of California, we're all required to separate our compostable trash from the rest of our trash. So starting a compost pile, starting a vermiculture area is really, really good to use up all of your kitchen scraps, and then you can actually have your own worm castings at home. So that's kind of fun, but you can make worm tea with this, and you can you know, put it on your plants, you can spray it on there. It's just the best for amending your soil and to also help keeping pests away. And then after you're through pruning your roses in January, if you want to bump up your soil a little bit, just put a nice little ring, maybe about 3 or 4 inches wide around it to help catch the water. But do it with this compost. This compost has worm castings in it. It has tons of organic ingredients like the cow manure and everything from this great company, but it's going to work its way into your soil and also help improve the soil, improve your roses, and improve your garden. So just treat your roses well. Start in January, and the rest of the year should go a little bit easier as long as your roses are as strong as they can be. So that's pretty much it for me. Are there any questions?
Yes, thank you, Suzanne.
Okay, I'm just going to check, make sure I didn't forget anything.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
The first question is, what is your favorite rose?
Oh my gosh, everybody knows my favorite rose. My favorite rose is Distant Drums. I've never really been a rose person. I've always worked with roses. I know about roses, but I never had the space or the sun for roses, and so I just didn't really think too much about it. But once I did get the space, the first rose I bought was Distant Drums. I bought 2 of them. I love it so much. My favorite climber is Sally Holmes. I love carpet roses. I feel like people don't use them enough. Any color of carpet rose is such a great landscaping plant because it's really good for a California-friendly garden. So I also love those. And I just bought my first David Austin rose last year, which was Lady of Shalott. And I also planted a Colette. So I kind of went a little crazy my first couple years buying roses, but I actually plan on buying more this year. So stay tuned for that one.
Any tips about pruning miniature roses?
Oh, just do it carefully. You're going to do it in January as well. So when you're pruning, so the January pruning is always, you know, for size and for the health of the plant. Miniature roses, it just depends on how small you want to keep it. So you want to be, careful with the stems and everything and just prune it back, just like everything else. Once it starts growing again, you're pruning for future shape. And by the way, you guys can all tell me what your favorite roses are too, because I love hearing about them and I love learning more and more about them. There was a great email that went up from Florette Farms today, and it's a 4-part series on her favorite roses, so it's kind of neat if you want to read that.
All right. Any tips for trimming your roses in the desert?
So if this is just a January pruning, you're going to do the exact same thing. I mean, roses in the desert, I guess it would depend on the variety that you have, but they're going to be heat. The roses like sun and heat. I don't know if you're talking about high desert or low desert or super hot desert, but for the most part, you're going to take care of them just like you would in any other area. You just want to make sure that they're super, super hydrated. So that's watering deeply, less often.
Okay. What do you use to get rid of the bugs that eat the leaves? There's holes all over by bush leaves.
So that's probably that softfly larva, and that's if they're still attacking it now, definitely use spinosad. But for your January pruning, you're going to get rid of all the leaves and everything, so you should be able to eradicate that now. In the ones that make that little Swiss cheese look in your rose are only eradicated by spinosad. Or you can, defoliate the whole thing, but nobody wants to do that.
The desert question replied, they're the low desert, is where they're located.
Oh, it's still,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's super, super cold right now, I would probably wait a little bit later, maybe till February 15th. You can prune anywhere from like the 1st of January to February 15th. So if it's really, really cold and you're worried that maybe that it's gonna, burn it from frost or something, I'd wait.
Yeah. I just planted a rose garden. Should I skip pruning this year or should I still prune?
Well, if your roses look like this, you do not need to prune them back. If your roses were, full shrubs and everything, yes, definitely prune them back.
Do you clean the blades of the pruners before using them?
That is a great thing. And actually, I thought about that this morning. Yes. Between each rose plant, you should clean your rose pruners. And you can use like a mild alcohol solution, or there's another one, I can't remember what it is right now. But yes, and if your rose shows any signs of disease or anything, you might want to clean them in between each cut. You can have a little bucket of your cleaning solution, dip it in there, and then wipe it off. Just make sure that you are looking for those diseases, because yes, that's super, super important. Thank you so much for the reminder.
Do you de-leaf climbing roses?
Yes, you defoliate them in your January pruning. You definitely, I don't know if Marissa, it's kind of hard to see, but yes, you cut it back to some basic canes. If you can see over there against the big iron structure, it's cut back to some basic canes. Usually you want to do it like 4 to 6 main canes, and then you're going to cut it back to those main canes, just kind of like this. Cut back all of the side growth and everything, and then you're going to do it again for height as well, because you want it to grow within the area of your either your structure or your arbor or something like that.
All right, so some of the favorite roses that have been listed is Mr. Lincoln.
That's a solid, great red rose that lasts forever in a vase. Yes.
Pope John Paul II.
The white one.
Yep.
Smells amazing. So does Mr. Lincoln.
Fourth of July.
4th of July is a great climber. Yeah.
Charlotte de Monaco.
Oh yeah, Princess Charlene de Monaco. And I always mix that rose's name up because there's Princess Caroline, there's Princess Charlotte. I forget which one it is, but yes, that's the one I'm getting this year, just to let you know. That one, I resisted it all year, and when I went to buy it, it was gone. It was sold out. So that's definitely top of my list.
Princess Diana, Anna's Promise.
Princess Diana has been renamed Elegant Lady, but yes, that's a great one. And Anna's Promise is part of the Downton Abbey series. I think they only did about 3 or 4 of them, but they're really beautiful, super nice and fragrant too.
Just Joey.
Just Joey. It always makes me think of our Rosarian Lori, who worked here when I first moved here. She loved Just Joey. So big, so butterscotchy, caramely.
That seems... Wait. When pruning, do you need to cut it at an angle or a straight cut?
Definitely cut it at an angle. You want to do it at like a 45-degree angle. Usually you're gonna kind of cut this way. The reason that you cut it on an angle is so that if any moisture should settle on the top of the stem here, it could lead to infection. If you have a little slant, then the water will run off of it.
Okay, that seems to be all the questions today. We'll post the products.
Yes,
below,
we'll have a list.
after.
And if you have any other questions, you can definitely bring them on. I have another rose talk, I think next week.
Yes.
And it's about organic roses too, and I forget what it is. But so we'll be back, and if you have more questions, definitely come and visit us then. Just if you want, go to our Instagram, go to our Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I was watching a lot of our old rose videos yesterday to just make sure that I was covering everything. We have some great rose videos on our YouTube channel. Come to rogersgardens.com. If you're not comfortable, shopping around right now, we have a great online service. You can call us, you can tell us what you need, and we have curbside service to pick up whatever you like. So that's it for me right now. I hope to see you all next week. Okay? Happy New Year!